In the previous episodes of Forbes Presents Legal Powerlist 2021, we presented to you the felicitations of members of the legal fraternity who have made remarkable contributions to the legal profession. In this episode, we bring to you another key highlight of the evening where legal luminaries came together for a power-packed discussion on the pertinent topic of law trends in mergers and acquisitions, moderated by Siddharth Marwa, Principal Associate, Khaitan and Company. The panelists included Atul Juble, General Counsel, Schindler India, Natasha Trejariwala, Partner at Desai and Divanji, Dr. Sachin Sharma, Managing Partner, KSV Tax Consultants.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's panel discussion on the theme M&A industry trends and outlook expectations for the remainder of 2023 and beyond. Welcome, everybody, and start with today's session. To begin with, I would like to ask Natasha and Mr. Juble, Mr. Ajiwala, that how do you perceive that the M&A activity in India has changed in the last few years, especially with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic? And which sectors, according to you, do you have grown in the past, and which are the sectors which are driving the growth in the M&A sector? I think, Mr. Ajiwala, we'll start with you.
Thanks. The first year of COVID obviously saw a dip in M&A activity. I think we were all clear because people didn't know what to expect. But by, I would say, the second year, M&A activity, sort of jumped through the roof. And I think that's partly because of what you said. There was supply and demand because, certain companies, decreased their overheads, so they became cash rich. So they had more money to spend. And then there were companies who were not doing so well because of supply chain demand, etc., which they couldn't cope up with due to COVID. So we saw a lot of increased M&A in that sector because of the demand supply. Then we have, of course, had unicorns, which are Indian unicorns, which have, started to consolidate. So we saw a lot of unicorns which have, sort of acquired a lot of smaller companies. So I think that consolidation has really taken place in the last few years and changed the face of M&A. And personally, I also saw in my own practice that a lot of family promoter-driven companies where, you had the first generation, they have, their children who continued, but the grandchildren don't have any interest in continuing. So, they are just looking to sell now at this point. And we've done a lot of M&A activity in that area as well. And I think when you asked, you asked about sectors, I think, of course, EV is a huge sector right now, very popular, electronic vehicles, tech, and also renewable energy. I think those are some sectors we're going to see some real, we're seeing and we'll see some more activity in the, yes.
Sectors. That's the Mr. Juble.
So I would like to add to Natasha. We saw revenge spending after this pandemic, and M&A activity saw revenge investments because 2021 was the topmost year for the M&A. 5.9 actually all over, not only India but across the globe. This year we are seeing that 20% less this year, but at the same time India's story growth continues with this. And the changes which pandemic brought is the change in the definition of the M&A. Earlier it was only acquisition and the disposition of the assets. But now alliances, partnerships, ecosystem, platforms, this particularly the startups, then IT, e-commerce saw the first particularly changes in the acquisitions and mergers, followed by the pharma, education. So we are seeing good activity. Yes, there is some dampening on the global side, but India's growth story continues. And yes, drivers are changed because of the pandemic, because pandemic taught everybody something new. Resilience, finding new ways of living, and that's are the particularly drivers are changing for the M&A also. So whether you like it or not, you have to change. That's a message we got on the pandemic. So activities are increasing, and I am hopeful that it will continue. This trend will continue this year also.
Thank you, Mr. Juble. So, continuing on the same thought process, Dr. Sharma, what do you think and perceive have been the changes in M&A activity in India, especially with the advent and with the introduction of the GST laws in India?
So actually, M&A is the best way to consolidate two companies, and we all know that sir just have told you. And as far as GST is concerned, before GST was being introduced in India, so in case of mergers and acquisition, there was a huge process to merge from one company to another company, like the transition of credit and stock and everything. So with the introduction of GST, it got very easy. The government has taken so much of step while framing the laws of GST. So earlier, one company has to pay taxes, and there was a huge working capital blockage when they used to transfer their stock from one company to another company. Now in GST, you don't have to pay tax on that. That is completely exempted. So there ways we just have to file a form, that is ITC 02 form, while transferring goods from one company to another company. So that's the perspective of pre versus post GST in terms of mergers and acquisition. So your next question was?
No, similarly, and how do you think that GST is a landmark change in terms of ease of doing business in India?
As far as ease of doing business, first of all, the landmark change of GST is the subsumization of taxes. 17 type of indirect taxes has been subsumed in GST. Thereafter, cascading effect have been eradicated. Earlier, before introduction of GST, there was double taxation. So with the introduction of GST, double taxation has been eradicated. So there is another step of for ease of doing business is the uniformity in taxation system. Thereafter, the very best thing in GST with the perspective of industry is the automation. The e-invoice system, its linkage with the e-waybill system, its linkage with the return system. So that is very easy now. So such kind of steps government are taking day by day. It's been 5 years GST have been introduced. So I think government is taking very fast steps to make it a successful regime. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. So one other thing which is happening nowadays a lot in M&A, we hear a lot that nowadays when people come to us with diligences and going forward in M&A transactions, the investors just try and look into the ESG aspect of it, the environmental, social and governance issues which are there. What we've seen is that investors have become more conscious about investing in more companies which have better ethical practices, which are better governed in that sense. So what do you think that how important has the ESG regime become in India?
So I think ESG has become a really important part of M&A activity, especially as the lawyers, from two aspects. There's the due diligence aspect where it's extremely important. And there is also the documentation. So for example, diligence, earlier in M&A, we always used to have diligence on, air pollution, environmental consents, those sort of things. Now we really dig sort of deeper due to ESG. We look at, whether, what their training programs are, for example, for environment, what their training programs are in terms of health and safety. If it's a chemical company, for example, are they training their people for accident, in case of an accident, what to do, those sort of things. Gift policies, anti-corruption, those sort of things are very key now in diligences. And then you have the documentation where reps and warranties also extremely important now to cover those ESG aspects. And I think in the disclosure letter is where you kind of, when you put in these reps, they sort of come out in the disclosures because then the companies have no choice but to disclose against the reps and what we find out, in those. So it's become that important.
That important. And I think that's what I've also noticed is that a lot of the foreign clientele, exactly. So I think more than a reputational aspect also, globally companies which have a global footprint, it's one of the very important reputational aspect as well.
Absolutely.
In order, in addition to being socially conscious.
Absolutely.
But yes, that is also there. So Mr. Juble, up on to you.
So ESG is no more the leadership talk. It has gone to everybody's home. We are seeing the climatic change we are experiencing the climatic change. It's a talk of the common man, not only M&A. So, yes, when we go for the M&A, we always think of at least 5 to 7 years of the investment.
Okay.
And in that case, ESG becomes more important because not only it is one of the topic for the discussion everywhere, but the investors, not only investors, but financial institutions and also customers and the general public, they are expecting. So not when we talk about the social factor, employee wants to join only ethical companies. Very clear, millennium generation, they don't want to wait for 20 years or to check their fortune, but they want to take that heat that if the company is not ethical, I don't want to join. So ESG has become a common factor and M&A is not an exception. So yes, it is a part of the due diligence. True that it is not compulsory in India till 2023, and after 2023 also it is compulsory for 1000 top listed companies. But I am sure that people who want to see the particularly future 5 to 7 or 10 years, ESG will be the basic parameter for every company, not only M&A. So there are checks, and as I mentioned, the future finances will be costlier if there is no ESG compliance.
That is true. I think that awareness which has increased is also plays a huge role, which is there. But just to understand from the other side, how big of a deal breaker is ESG if the other say commercial aspects or the commercial parameters in a company are top notch when you're looking at it, but obviously an ESG is the only factor which may not be up to the mark. So how big of a deal breaker does that become?
So, to answer this, actually, always, whenever we talk about new initiatives and all, the cost and profitability comes in the picture. But ESG helps to be sustainable. If you want, there is some cost attached, but at the same time, environment, social, governance. Now, India has ranked 63, I think, in ease of doing business. The rank is improved because of the governance. Governance has become then our colleague talked about the relaxation in taxation and all. So this all helping companies. So we cannot only talk about the cost, and cost is not significant, one thing. And secondly, if you want to do it, you can do it. It's not the rocket science.
Correct.
You can do it, but there has to be mindset change required.
The intent is required.
Intent is required. So I don't believe that cost, because if you want to look at the 10 years sustainability, then ESG is the future.
So, Natasha, have you seen that from a client perspective when you are approached nowadays? So, is there an increased focus, like you're saying, but how much of focus is there on ESG issues? And is it something that mostly, is done in-house, or have you been involving other firms or, third-party consultants to help with the process?
Yes, so it is important, especially from a buyer's perspective. So when we are representing a buyer, it is important, and we do have third-party agencies also, because it's not just legal, right? There's other aspects to it. So I think the buyers do engage other third parties as well. But it's extremely important. It's important for buyers because, it affects, like they have customer contracts probably, which say that your entire supply chain should have these sort of provisions, ESG compliances. So it's extremely important for them to ensure that the company they are buying is on board with the ESG process.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Sharma previously spoke about how ease of doing business, GST has provided that as a landmark judgment. But what are the other initiatives, and this I would like to ask Mr. Jiwala and Mr. Juble, that you think that the government has taken in the past few years, especially since the pandemic and even before that, which have helped in, facilitating the ease of doing business in India from an M&A perspective? Yes.
So from an M&A perspective, well, for sure, the FDI sort of boosts that have come up. So defense, has gone up to 74% automatic, which is a huge boost. And we've seen a lot of traction in the defense sector because of that. Insurance also has become 74%. So again, we've been seeing a lot of deals in that space. Apart from that, I mean, you saw the competition bill that has just come up a couple of month ago or so, which it has some really good provisions. Of course, there need to be some clarifications, so it hopefully will come out in the regulations. But those are also very good. SEBI came out a few months ago with the open offer and delisting sort of combined possibility. That's also very important for public M&A. And I think that there have been a lot of good sort of government boosts, but I think that we still have a long way, at least for M&A and for foreign investors to sort of come in.
All right. Mr. Juble.
So if I have to add the particularly one more thing I would like to add, that is the decriminalization of the sections, which is good. Then we have these, particularly the acts which are not required, they are getting particularly reformed or deleted from the systems. We are waiting for the wage code, which will again, the labor laws compliance will go. So these are all actually ease of business. We can say that because the jumping from 143 to 63 number itself is a big achievement in last 8 years. And it is because of the government support and policies which are particularly liked by the foreign investors. So FDI she has covered.
Thank you so much. And I think for now we just take some closing comments from everybody on what do you think is going to happen in the coming months which are there, the remainder of 2023 and beyond. So what's your take on that? We'll start with Dr. Sharma.
So I was reading one article. So recently India has ranked in the World Investment Report 2022. India is ranked at 8th number, who is receiving FDI investments. And as far as GST is concerned, government is giving so much benefits, like if you can see the refunds of exports. So that's the very important thing. And now it is very easy. If you're doing export with payment of tax, you will get the refund in 7 days, 90% refund you receive. And the 10% you get it within 60 days. So there is a foundation on the officers also to give the refund within a stipulated time. So that's the very good step and a beneficial step, because every industry needs working capital. So if a working capital is coming to us at a very shorter period from the government, so that's a very good step, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Juble, your closing thoughts.
So balance of the year estimates given by the top firms that we will close year with 20% less than 2022. But best part of it is it will be second best in the last 20 years. So it's not, we are comparing on 2021 basis, but it is not a bad story if we compare the situations all across the globe, including the particularly stock market story, you can even the currency story. Our discounting is less than the other top discountings. So I feel the positiveness is there. Yes, some sort of skepticism in the investment, but people have got finances, money, if there are good deals. So I feel that 2023 will be best.
Yes. Mr. Shivala.
Yeah, I agree with Tulji actually that I think last year was great for M&A. I've definitely seen a slight slowdown in the last few months, but I think that it's still, there is money, and if there are good deals, as exactly what you said, then there is definitely going to be, activity in those sectors. And like I said, there are a lot of hot sectors, EV and tech, which will continue to do well no matter what.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I think the takeaway from this is that things are looking bright, and obviously the government is taking some initiatives, but like you said, there is a lot of much more ways to go. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The evening culminated with a valedictory address by retired Justice Madan B. Lokar, Judge at the Supreme Court of Fiji, and also a former Judge of the Supreme Court of India.
Good evening, everybody. So it's been a grand function today, and congratulations to all the winners. Let me say that the jury had quite a problem at hand, because we had something like more than 1,500 applications. And it was a tough task, but fortunately, I think the result has turned out to be pretty good. For those who could not make it this time, Let me tell you that this is not the end, but it's the beginning of the new year. And we hope to see you in the power list for 2021 or 2022. So, as a closing note, I would like to thank the jury for the excellent work that they have done. Brian, you guys have done a fantastic job. Really, frankly, I didn't expect this to be such a grand show, but you've done a tremendous job. And Karan, so have you. You've also done a wonderful job, Legit Quest, as a member of the advisory board of Legit Quest. As a member of the advisory board of Legit Quest, let me say that they have done an excellent job over the last couple of years. I remember a presentation given by Karan at an international conference in Qatar, which was very well received. And he has gone far ahead from what he had achieved in Qatar. And I hope to continue to do so. And with the support of Forbes, I'm sure all of us over here will reach great heights. So thank you very much and all the best for all of you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on the second edition of Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2021. It has been a fantastic evening, and the credit for this goes to each one of you who has taken out time to join us today for this special event. Let me also remind this August gathering that the hospitality partner for today's events was Andaz Delhi and bespoke partners Damilano. I would like to thank all these esteemed guests and speakers and their participation that they took here. And also a big thank you to all of you for being such a wonderful audience.